Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my journey. Today, I wanted to take a step back into the past to kind of help you guys understand why PT, how I decided on that, and kind of see this when PTs talk to each other, this similar origin story, if you will, where we all kind of have some sort of experience with PT. It's not just wake up one day and say, man, PT, that's something I want to do. If that's the case, you might be thinking more of like a doctor or a lawyer, something classical where you already kind of know what they do. So this experience here is like you got injured as a kid or you got injured in high school and your PT helped you get back to whatever sport that you were doing or helped you rehab from an accident or something like that. Sometimes people have a family member who goes through PT, but I would say for the most part, there is a particular thing, incident, injury that happens to the individual, and that's how they get their experience. So a little foreshadowing there for you. Now, I want to start, let's say like school age, middle school, elementary school age. I was really fortunate. My parents wanted me to experience a lot of different sports and they had the resources to do that. So I did things like basketball, baseball, soccer, skateboarding, inline skating, tennis, anything that I had somewhat interest in. My parents were like, yep, gung-ho for it. They even had me do a little bit of karate, which I lasted all of one day. Somebody showed up late and they made them do push-ups and I was like, this ain't for me. So I was really lucky to experience a lot of different movements as a kid. And with my stature, I wasn't very good at basketball, baseball, just it wasn't a good fit. My shoulders are relatively weak. I ended up playing outfield and I was like, let's pick some daisies. It was boring. So I settled on soccer. And looking back a little more deeply, kind of my current experiences, and I can kind of see why soccer kind of was the settling point. I'm big into the outdoors, and where we played and even where we practiced was surrounded by trees. You play on a grass field. The mornings of your games, you're getting ready early in the morning. It's springtime, the birds are chirping, you see the sunrise, there's dew on the ground, and it's just sort of this ritual that I have a lot of nostalgia with. So it makes sense with the outdoors and the ritualistic piece of it that soccer would be the thing that I kind of settle on. And there are different specific times in your soccer career, and really any sport career, that you can choose to specialize. So I want to make note that I waited to specialize in soccer, and I'll talk a little bit about that more here, for a while. So if you don't know how soccer works as a kid, you're like yay big and they throw you on the field with 6 other kids and it's basically mob ball. Like you're 4 years old and you just run around together, and whoever's the most athletic, it scores a lot of goals because they're bigger or stronger or whatever. So that's at the beginning, right? Mob ball. That's what I like to call it. And as you get a little older, the skill ceiling elevates, and you have to use your teammates, pass the ball, that kind of thing. So at this point, the skill ceiling is pretty low. I'm playing rec soccer, and into middle school, you can kind of choose to go to what's called club soccer or premier soccer. So the club term is thrown around a lot. You play for a club when you're a professional. And so that term is playing for a club. Kind of this middle school, high school age is like that premier level where you're kind of serious about soccer. And at this time, I chose to continue playing rec soccer. So it was kind of tied to the school. So, I had some good friendships built from the school. So I wanted to stick with those people more for the relationship bit rather than the really honing in on soccer bit. At this level, the skill ceiling is still relatively low despite being, like 11, 12, 13 in there. So it's basically the extent of the strategy is kick the ball really far, have somebody run onto it, and try and get it in the goal. So that I kind of was able to lean on my athleticism a little bit contrary to what you think, maybe I might be a midfielder or a striker due to being shorter. I played goalkeeper, and I'm not really sure why I settled on goalkeeper, but I got to sort of lean on my athletic ability. At this time, I was really good and quick, still am quick, to come off the line. And what that means is your goalkeeper typically stands right on the goal line. And he does that so they can stop any shots that are there. Now, there is kind of like a no man's land between where your last defender is and where you are as the goalkeeper. And if an opposing team passes the ball into that no man's land as a breakaway is where somebody dribbles through and they're attacking goal with no one defending but the goalkeeper, or as a through ball with someone kind of passing through that no man's land onto someone running towards it. I was really quick to intercept either the player with the ball or the ball itself being passed. Actually, comically so, I loved to slide tackle. I loved the chase of running somebody down and just slide tackling them into the ground, and it was sort of brutal at times, but it was a whole lot of fun, and maybe that's why goalkeeper was the thing for me. So this skill ceiling is kind of low, and I can just kind of sit back, and over time, over a few years, like, your teammates start to notice the patterns, and they're like, Nick's becoming more of the leader. He's, it's kind of my first leadership position. Not that the coaches kind of manage everything at that age, but people start to rely on you because you're consistent at doing the thing that you do. So idea is nice to see that I'm sort of seeing the fruits of my labor pay off over time as I'm doing this consistent work. So as we make this transition from middle school soccer to more of the high school level, the skill ceiling dramatically increases because all of these club players who have interacted with the game in a different fashion, increased their awareness of the strategy to utilizing their teammates, and elevated their skill level, even just control of the ball on their foot, ability to pass, ability to accept a ball coming from the air, whether it's with their head or with their foot or their chest. So a lot of these players at the high school level were just light years beyond the skill level that I had, and the transition was really hard for me. And ultimately, as a goalkeeper, that's a very important position, and not a lot of players do in fact play that position. So I ended up making JV as a freshman, and that was just a really hard time. You're awkward as a freshman, but aside from that, my short stature, bigger goal, higher skill ceiling, like, there were just lots of different things stacked against me. And unfortunately, my level, my status, I ended up just kind of letting my teammates, letting myself down a lot. It just was a really frustrating time because I got scored on a lot. There wasn't a lot I could do. I was giving all of my effort. I was doing everything I knew how to do, being athletic, controlling the ball when I could. I couldn't kick the ball very far. Like, my goal kicks, when the ball is on the ground, it goes out of play, the ball is put on the ground and you kick it. I couldn't kick it very far. So there were just a lot of things that was really frustrating in my game. And I ended up at the end of that season kind of breaking down in front of the head coach and like, man, I just cannot play goalkeeper for you anymore. It just was the worst few months that I think I've had in a really long time. And he was like any good man, like any good mentor would, he was like, okay, that's fine, but you better get better at playing the field. So that kind of instilled in me, okay, I can do this, but I've got my work's cut out for me. I've got a lot of work to do. So this started increase in skill level and increase in cardiovascular conditioning. So that whole summer I spent following the coach's advice. I kicked the ball at the wall. I put thousands of passes in, thousands and thousands and thousands of passes in. I dribbled the ball. I practiced with myself. I played games and just tried to interact with the game as best I could. And we also had summer conditioning, so we were doing that as well. And I ended up making JV again that sophomore year, which was really good for me because picking up a completely, entirely new position and having to learn the strategy and, like just learning it from a different perspective was really hard. And so I was really proud that I was able to put some hard work in for a short period of time, relatively short, a few months, and see my efforts pay off. And so that's kind of a common theme that I've utilized in my life is if you're disciplined and if you put in the work, you're often compensated for that. And so as time goes on, I'm becoming more serious. Once I make JV sophomore year, I'm like, this is my thing. I need to do this. This is the sport that I truly love. I love it because it's beautiful. The nostalgia piece of growing up with it. Towards the end of the high school phase, you're like, can I utilize this to financially benefit me? Can I make some money? Not in terms of like going to the MLS or anything like that or going overseas, but can I get some tuition benefits? Can I get somebody to pay for my school if I play? And just sort of setting yourself up for success further on down the line. And so that was the goal. That was my goal was, can I utilize this thing that I like to earn some money? And ultimately, I wasn't super sure what I wanted to do in college at sophomore year. No one really is. But you still have this idea of, okay, here's the next step. Here's the next logical step in life. And so with more work and more training and all of that, working with some of the best players on the team, getting feedback, reaching out to the leaders, again, talking with the coach and now my mentor, Kelly Barra, he and the team elevated my game to a point where I made varsity. So I made varsity junior year, and that was another hard year in terms of practice, because in order to play at the level that high school was, you had to really understand everybody's role, everybody's position, not just your own. And on top of that, execute on the tasks that you need to do quickly and think multiple steps ahead. It's like a chess game. And I just didn't have the reps to do that. I had to really focus really hard in order to perform at the level that I needed to. But with lots of time over that year, I broke the starting lineup senior year. And I started as our left defender. And we played a 4 flat, left, middle, left, or right. So that was another big win for me. I was like, okay, I can do this. And the next logical step too is in this kind of college search is getting on a club team. So between probably sophomore and junior year, I decided to go ahead and play on a club premier team. And I did that with some of my teammates too. So that was beneficial to get some more chemistry, some more time together to build this sort of routine. And ultimately, in that fashion, at the end of senior year, unfortunately, we never really made it to district, one regionals, one state. We never really capitalized on what I thought we really could, which was fine for me. The competitive aspect was more being a part of the team and trying to reach a goal together. It was never like, oh, I want to win personally. At least ultimately for me, I wanted the team to make it there together. In these showcase tournaments, you have college coaches coming in to watch you play, and perhaps they talk to you afterwards. I never got super into this process because of what happened at one of our first showcase tournaments after my senior year. This is kind of the final time to get college coaches to look at you so that they can offer you tuition and scholarships and things so that you can play for their teams. And I was getting some calls for some D2 schools, Benedictine, your Christian schools that have sports programs and things like that. And unfortunately, during a showcase tournament, I had kind of this classic injury with the turf, the molded plastic cleats on the bottom, so they're like stuck in to the shoe. And then the classic mechanism of injury with your tibia internally rotated, your femur abducted, and kind of this twisting, planting maneuver, no contact. And unfortunately, at that time, I tore my left anterior cruciate ligament, and I was in denial about it for a really long time. But one of the parents was like, the moment it happened, he was like, "Man, Nick, I'm really sorry about that. I'm really sorry," because he knew ahead of time what I would come to find out is that rehab process and that surgery process is really pretty grueling. If you're not aware, for ACL reconstruction surgery, return to sport is a year. You really should, the research shows, you really should wait that full year before returning to competitive sport. And at that time, I didn't know this, but my competitive soccer career was certainly over. There just wasn't enough time to rehabilitate, get my fitness level back up, jump on the skill wagon, and sort of return to this grind in time to get the recruiting that I needed. So through my rehab process, I figured that out and decided to go to a local state school in the area. But that's not what's important for this video. The rehab process was life-changing. I went from being unable to load my leg, unable to put weight on it at all, having a metal bar behind my leg to keep it straight, using an immobilizer, crutches. Through that winter period, it was tough. You know, you kind of lose your identity as a high school athlete when you're injured. Like, that's your thing. You sit with the other athletes at lunch and you practice and condition with your teammates, and you just can't do that. You're no longer, it's like your identity of an athlete is taken from you. So that was a difficult time. And on top of that, it was winter in Kansas. So it's kind of sketchy to walk around on ice and snow on crutches. You're going to therapy on crutches. And so it was just a tough time as, you know, a young man to really kind of get knocked down and have to build yourself back up. And I had a wonder therapist, Janine, who's now up in Utah. She had a student at the time too. I think her name was Lindsay. And they helped me get back to the thing I loved, man. It was really a really beautiful thing. You know, it took me from table exercises, squeezing my quad, squeezing my glutes, to doing leg press and agility ladder, to running, to sprinting, to cutting, and ultimately to playing on the field. That's why I do what I do. That experience put me on the path of PT so that I can help other people return to the things that they love, or now more so than ever, return to the things that they just need to be doing. They need to be walking better. They need to not hurt so that they can stand and do the dishes at night. That is my PT finding story, and I learned a lot along the way. I learned a lot about discipline and about effort and about using people to help you along, using your team for support if you need. I've tried to do a lot of things on my own. I'm a bit hard-headed in that way, but you know, you sometimes have to lean on your team to help you. And so that was really beneficial and helped me build the man that I am today. I want to real quick shout out Janine and Lindsay. Thank you both for your help along my rehabilitation journey. And this is sort of where the journey picks up for you all out there. So if you have any questions about the things that I went through in my soccer rehabilitation journey, please leave a question down below. Feel free to email me. And we'll see you all in the next video.